What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including we finally know the reason why Chris Jericho quit WWE, Seth Rollins thinks that Hulk Hogan isn't a great human being, the newest form of the Fiend, Moxley's heat with Brock Lesnar, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's hit the intro and get straight into the first story. Now, first story looks at Chris Jericho revealing the reason for quitting the WWE. Now, Jericho's exit from the WWE wasn't surprising, as the multiple-time world champion often took sabbaticals from wrestling to pursue his other projects. However, Jericho's signing with All Elite Wrestling stunned the wrestling world, including Vince McMahon, who rumor has it asked Jericho to break his AEW contract and return to WWE. And now the former AEW champion has revealed why he left the WWE, pointing to a specific incident that changed his opinion of the promotion. Speaking with Inside the Ropes, Le Champion discussed his Wrestlemania match against Kevin Owens and the changes that infuriated him. One of the original plans from Vince McMahon's mouth to my ears directly was the main event of Wrestlemania was going to be Jericho vs Owens for the world title, and Jericho wins the title for the first time ever as a babyface. I've never been a babyface world champion ever, weird to think of it, right? 7-time champion as a heel. As often happens with the mercurial Vince McMahon, plans were thrown right out of the window. Next week the plans changed, which Vince did not tell me. Goldberg vs Brock for the title, because that's what they wanted to do. Maybe from a marquee standpoint that might have been a bigger money match, but from a story standpoint ours was worth more. But the difference was we went from the main event to being put on second. That's an insult, because the second match is just another match. Either you're on last or you're on first, and maybe the semi-main event. But that's it. Those are your big money spots at WrestleMania. Jericho clarified that he holds no ill will towards the WWE, but their handling of his WrestleMania match with KO made it clear it was time for a change. Jericho is scheduled to appear on the 11th April edition of the Broken Skull Sessions, and hopefully we'll discuss this during his chat with the Texas Rattlesnake. Next up, The Fiend's newest form. The Fiend has had a hellacious last few months, with Bray Wyatt's devilish doppelganger getting immolated by Randy Orton and returning with his new charbroil look. And now rumours are flying around that the WWE isn't through with giving the monster a makeover. Wrestling Inc.'s Mark Middleton noticed a Fiend update for the WWE's online supercard game and speculated, it looks like the Fiend will be wearing a long black cover or rag over his head, presumably to hide his burns and scars from TLC. A screenshot from the latest WWE Supercard game update shows the Fiend wearing the new garb. And we'll have to wait to see the Fiend decked out in his new garb before we know for sure the WWE isn't adjusting his look again, but it wouldn't surprise us as the WWE loves to capitalize on the Fiend's popularity with new ways to make merchandise. What do you think of this potential new fashion statement? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Seth Rollins thinks Hogan isn't a great human being. A SmackDown superstar Seth Rollins seems to have mixed feelings on the Hulkster, something which became painfully obvious when Rollins discussed his Mount Rushmore of wrestling during an appearance on the Complex Sports podcast. The former Monday Night Messiah explained he'd have Hogan on his Mount Rushmore, but not if Hogan's personal life counted. Instead, he'd replace Hogan with Shawn Michaels. Shawn's my favorite wrestler of all time, but we're talking about contributions to WWE and what they meant to the business. And look, if it were up to me in that situation, I would scratch Hogan off that sucker probably. But again, if we're just talking the not kind of human being you are, but we're talking about your contribution as a wrestler to the company, okay, Hogan was responsible for everything that happened after the late 80s. Rollins went out of his way to separate Hogan the wrestler from Hogan the individual, and then added, look, Hulk's always been really nice to me, but that doesn't make him a great human being. Hulk Hogan will return to the WWE to co-host WrestleMania 37 alongside Warrior Award winner Titus O'Neil, but not everyone is happy with Hogan co-hosting the event. Next up, Moxley's heat with Brock Lesnar. Arn Anderson recently shared an interesting story from his many years as WWE producer that involved Brock Lesnar and former champion Dean Ambrose. The founding member of the Four Horsemen discussed the WrestleMania 32 no-holds-barred street fight between Lesnar and Moxley. I know that he was frustrated because he did want to have... That was a huge match for him. that he would have had on his tool belt for the rest of his career, and he wanted to use the weapons as a way to get himself back maybe even get an advantage and put himself in a position to win. But as we know, Brock does what Brock wants to do. He always has. AA pointed out how Lesnar was destroying a variety of superstars at the time, including Cena and Orton. So this was not something new. It just had to be frustrating because they did have the advantage of using some weapons to at least get Brock in trouble a couple of times. It was what it was. Like I said, if you're in there with Brock Lesnar, you do what he wants to do. That's the way it is. And many fans were disappointed by this match as the Beast no-sold for much of the match, making it a forgettable affair. Next up, a former WWE superstar remembers great advice from Chris Benoit. Younger wrestlers can do well to learn from veterans, a practice former Crime Time member JTG seems to subscribe to. JTG spoke with Sportskeeda about the advice he received from former World Heavyweight Champion Chris Benoit. Never wrestled Chris Benoit, but he was one of the first that I can actually remember who came up to me and gave me some great advice. When we debuted at the Staples Center, right before I was going, I was stretching and he pulled me to the side and said, "This is your debut match, right? When you go out there, you never pull back and you never hesitate. Because sometimes there's miscommunication and let's say I'm going to throw a punch and he was supposed to duck. But he's still there and you hesitate. He's like, if you don't duck, hit him. You have to protect yourself and you have to protect the business. Protect the business before yourself." He was always big on protecting the business. A sage advice from someone considered one of the best workers in the business. While some veterans don't want to help out new wrestlers, the majority of them seem ready to help anyone who is ready to listen. And finally, Bayley doesn't know why she's not on the WrestleMania card. The WWE Universe is wondering why Bayley isn't competing at this year's Showcase of the Immortals, given her status as one of WWE's top performers. Wrestling's golden role model recently spoke with TalkSport's Alex McCarthy about the situation, saying, "I can't give you an answer, dude. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. It just didn't happen. Even if there was something, I don't know if I would tell you guys. It would spoil it. But it's okay. I'll be here for a long time." McCarthy added that Bayley says she has pitched stories and matches for WrestleMania 37, but there are currently no plans. She hasn't wrestled since February 19th, but she also confirms she has not been injured. Now, some fans are speculating Bayley and Charlotte could enter WrestleMania's Tag Team Turmoil match on night 1, but so far that is nothing more than just fan speculation. But there you have it, folks, the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.